Greetings, history enthusiasts. Today, we embark on a solemn exploration of the darker facets of our past. Welcome to Through the Ages, where we delve into the haunting stories of the 10 most brutal forms of punishment in ancient history. Viewer discretion is advised as we discuss the graphic nature of these historical practices. Our first entry, Scaphism, was a horrific fate suffered by those condemned in ancient Persia. Imagine being confined within a hollowed-out tree trunk or boat, force-fed a mixture of honey and milk. This brutal method was reserved for the most severe crimes, subjecting individuals to a slow and agonizing demise as insects feasted on their living flesh. In ancient Greece, the brazen bull became an instrument of both execution and spectacle. Victims, often political dissidents or criminals, were placed inside the bronze bull. A fire beneath transformed the interior into a scorching inferno, roasting the individual alive. The screams amplified through specially designed openings, creating a horrifying public display. The breaking wheel, employed in medieval Europe, was a method of execution and torture for those deemed enemies of the state. Imagine being bound to a large wheel while executioners systematically shattered your limbs. This gruesome spectacle was a form of brutal justice, instilling fear in those who witnessed the excruciating ordeal. In ancient China, the punishment known as lingqi, or death by 1,000 cuts, was reserved for the most heinous crimes. Those subjected to lingqi faced a ritualistic execution involving the systematic slicing of small pieces of flesh. This agonizing process was as much a public display as a form of punishment designed to strike terror into the hearts of onlookers. The rack, a notorious instrument of torture in medieval Europe, was employed on individuals accused of crimes against the state. Victims were stretched to the breaking point, their joints dislocated, and bones fractured. The psychological torment of anticipating the impending snap added a layer of horror to an already brutal punishment. As we transition to the Renaissance period in Europe, imagine facing the gruesome reality of saw torture. Suspended upside down, victims experienced a slow and agonizing death as executioners used a large saw to cut through their bodies from the crotch downwards. The deliberate nature of this method aimed to prolong suffering in the most macabre manner. Flaying, the removal of a person's skin, was a punishment that transcended cultures and time periods. Victims, often political dissenters or enemies, faced this brutal fate as a form of execution or to instill terror. The sight of a flayed body served as a gruesome warning to those who dared to defy authority. Impalement, one of the oldest and most widespread forms of execution, involved driving a sharp object through the body of the condemned. Whether in ancient Assyria or medieval Wallachia, impalement was a slow and deliberate method, ensuring a gruesome and drawn-out demise for those who suffered this brutal fate. In ancient Rome, crucifixion was a widely feared form of punishment. Condemned individuals, often slaves or rebels, were nailed or tied to a cross and left to die through a combination of blood loss, exhaustion, and exposure. The physical and psychological torment endured by those on the cross was a haunting reminder of the brutal realities of ancient justice. As we conclude this somber journey through history, we reflect on the unimaginable suffering endured by those subjected to these brutal forms of punishment. Remember, our understanding of justice has evolved over time, and we must strive for a more humane and compassionate world. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, consider subscribing for more insights into our complex and often dark past. Until next time, this is Through the Ages.